A little earlier, but let's speak now to Laura Gilchrist from the Tornado Storm and Research Organisation, who's on the phone. Laura, first of all, is this kind of thing forecastable?
Not to the extent of just one street. I mean, we can look at the forecast models and predict the kind of conditions that may generate a tornado, but as for pinning it down to one street in northwest London, that's pretty much impossible just due to the small scale of these events.
I mean, we heard that eyewitness there describing a tornado which was up to 200 feet tall. I mean, it seems incredible, but is it possible here in Britain?
Absolutely. We actually get reported about, in the region of about 35 tornadoes a year, so they're actually more frequent than most people think, though most of them are on a very small scale in open countryside. It's only when they hit sort of an urban area such as this that we tend to hear about them, and Birmingham, of course, last year as well. Indeed,
and Aberystwyth even more recently. But generally, do we find that they just do a small amount of damage in fields, knocking over a few trees if they hit an area of rural countryside?
That's right. So I investigated one a couple of years ago that was in the Cotswolds, and it did hit a small village, but most of the time you do see just trees down and nothing too dramatic.
Now, we know weather forecasters get it in the neck for events such as, you know, mini hurricanes or hurricanes. Are you expecting a backlash?
Well, no, as I say, there's not one person in this country that can forecast tornadoes accurately at all. I mean, as I mentioned, you can predict the conditions that might generate one, but not to such a small scale. So I don't think anybody can be blamed for missing this event. It's just an unfortunate act of nature that happened to occur in this small part of London.
I mean, you gave us those incredible figures of sort of 35 to 40 of these things happening every year. Do you find that this might be getting more frequent? All we hear about is how freak weather events are going to become more common. Is this what's happening in your experience?
Well, I think the fact that we're hearing about more of these tornadoes every year is just down to a better awareness and more reporting. I mean, it may be that global warming could have a bearing on this, but we just don't know for certain. But certainly, people with camera phones and such like, and a general better awareness of what a tornado is and that they can happen in this country is certainly leading to more reports coming into it.
I mean, I use the word freak, but I mean, is this actually can you describe it accurately in meteorological terms as actually a freak event?
I tend to avoid that term. I always believe that freak is contrary to nature. I think a tornado is a perfectly natural weather event. So, you know, but to see one on such, you know, such a damaging scale in such a built-up area is not particularly frequent.
Does this occur more often at a particular time of year?
Sometimes the weather at certain types of year are more conducive to tornadoes, but we can't, you know, in America they have sort of a season for these tornadoes, but, you know, they can happen at any time of year as they can in the UK. But you often find sort of at this time of year, when the weather is as unsettled as it is now, or even in the springtime, when we're sort of transitioning between seasons, that sometimes the weather can be unsettled and the type of conditions are right for tornadoes.
I'm not sure where you are and if you can see the pictures that we've had coming into us from our helicopter over the last couple of hours, but you'll see that the majority of houses affected are Victorian. It was a very Victorian area of London. Should we be thinking about building our houses, a new housing stock differently, given that this happens fairly frequently?
I don't think so. As I say, our houses are very solidly built, and in fact I would go so far as to suggest that some are more solidly built than those you see in America. But if you're going to get a tornado coming along, these can have winds of up to 150 or even more miles an hour, and no matter how solidly you build your building, I would imagine that, you know, even that would struggle against such strong wind speeds. So, and as I say, because we can't ever predict exactly where they're going to touch down, I would just suggest that there's nothing really we can do to prepare our building for it. You can just be aware of what a tornado is and perhaps how to keep yourself safe if you see one coming.
OK, Laura Gilchrist, meteorologist, many thanks for speaking to us this afternoon here on BBC News 24. Thanks for your time.